Joining me now, Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. It's great to be speaking with you. A lot of news this week. I want to start with the news that was announced yesterday, this proposed rule to ban Chinese and Russian software and hardware from connected vehicles in the U.S. This would effectively ban Chinese vehicles from U.S. roads. Why was this necessary?
Yeah, thank you, Morgan. Thanks for having me. Because cars aren't steel on wheels anymore. It's like a computer on wheels. Your car is connected to your phone, it's connected to your life, and you don't want it connected to the PRC. And so if you think about the risks that could be posed to Americans if we had millions of Chinese connected cars on the road, it gets pretty scary pretty fast. With the flip of a switch, they could have a malfunction in every car. There's a huge amount of data. They just think about it, where you go, where your kids go, where your house is, where your doctors are, all of that data being sent back to the PRC or the Chinese military. It's just a risk that we decided we couldn't handle. I've been thinking about this for a long time, actually, Morgan, and earlier this year we collected a lot of data on this. We did a request for information. And quite frankly, the more you learn, the worse it looks. And so it's my job to be proactive and make sure that the American people are protected from the national security risks posed by advanced technology like connected vehicles and software.
Have there been examples of malfeasance that have helped to contribute to this policy?
I would say what has really helped to contribute to this policy is the experience of Europe, cautionary tale, where they went from where Chinese cars had like 0% of market share to 10+% of market share overnight. And so that had me worried because you realize since China is, subsidizes and uses anti-competitive practices, you can go from no cars to millions of cars quickly. And then when you start to study the risks of that, as I said, that's the threat. The threat is having all this connectivity, all of this data quickly, and that's why we decided to be proactive and get ahead of it.
So just how far is this going to extend into, or does this dynamic extend into the auto supply chain? And I guess just as crucially, how will you determine those boundaries? Ford, for example, has this deal with China's CATL to license its EV battery technology for its plant in Michigan. You've got China apparently's BYD is the biggest electric bus maker now in the U.S. You've got a number of Chinese companies that have gotten state regulatory approvals to begin testing their autonomous vehicles on U.S. roads already. Does all of that now need to change?
I would say yes and no. This isn't about battery technology. It's not about hard equipment per se. It's about the connectivity. It's about anything that, the software or the connectivity that would allow China to, like I said, be able to control with the flip of a switch the cars on the road remotely, or anything that collects data on U.S. drivers and consumers. Also, it's not anything retroactive. That's an important point I should have made. So, for example, you mentioned Ford or GM. This won't affect their cars until the 2027 model. So it's proactive. We're giving them time to adjust. Also, the announcement today, it's a 30-day comment period. So we hope that industry will come forward in the next 30 days and tell us, give us advice on how to implement it. I want to be crystal clear about this. This isn't about disrupting commerce. This isn't about trade. This is not a trade remedy against China. This is about national security. This is what I said before. Your car is connected to your life, and we have to protect the data to protect the American people. So we want it to be as narrowly targeted as possible, Morgan, to meet our national security objective.
It also raises the question, does this now provide a policy template for other connected machines or devices?
Possibly. We're looking at drones. Drones that have Chinese and Russian equipment, chips and software in them. But you could imagine, other infrastructure, critical infrastructure, for example, that might have Chinese and Russian connectivity software or chips in them. So, You know, it's as we become a more connected world, we have to modernize the way we think of national security. You and I have talked about this in the past. The Commerce Department has become the hub in the U.S. government for where we really think about emerging cutting-edge technology and what we have to do to protect the American people and our military from the risks posed by that new technology. And so the answer to your question is yes, maybe, and we're looking at it and trying to be proactive and strategic and fact-based.
I mean, you've talked about some of the different tools in your toolbox as you do think about these national security risks, these economic risks, especially when you think about something like countering China. Tariffs has been one of them. For example, implementing 100% tariffs on Chinese-made EVs over the summer at a time where tariffs are being debated right now. They're an active part of the campaign trail on both sides. I do wonder what your thoughts are on whether the long-standing talking points on tariffs need to be torn up or reconsidered.
You know, it's a great question. It's maybe a better question for the U.S. Trade Rep or the White House because the tariffs came out of USTR. But look, I would say, once again, what I'm doing here is not about trade. It's not about China's subsidization, which they do of their cars. It's about national security. Having said that, I do think we need to look more broadly at our policies. On the one hand, you know, trade is good, and we shouldn't forget that. On the other hand, when you have countries that don't play by the rules, like China, you have to use the tools in your toolbox to protect American industry and make sure that American industry can compete, and American workers who have been hurt by unfair trade agreements in the past.
So I do want to shift to the other news of the day. We had CHIPS Act news. Polar Semiconductor is getting $123 million in CHIPS Act funding. It's going to double its U.S. production capacity of power and sensor chips. It's not the largest dollar amount you've doled out, but it's certainly a milestone. Why?
It's a fantastic milestone, and huge thank you to my team and to Congress and for the President for making this possible. It's a new chapter in the CHIPS initiative, right? Congress passed the bill. President signed it a couple of years ago. This is the first announcement that we finalized a deal with a company, and money will be going out the door to the company. So and there's more to come, right? This is the first of many announcements we will have between now and the end of the year. Money flowing to companies to expand manufacturing in the U.S. So it's the next chapter in the CHIPS program, and it's huge, right? As you just said, they're doubling manufacturing of chips in the United States of America, Minnesota. And these are chips, power chips, that go into military equipment, planes, aerospace industry, defense industrial base. So it's exactly what we're supposed to be doing, and it is a big milestone.
The Building Chips in America Act passed the House last night. It's now going to get signed or presumably be signed into law by President Biden. It establishes Commerce as the lead federal agency to carry out reviews of the National Environmental Policy Act. How does this now enable you to perhaps more quickly stand up this domestic supply chain?
It's an important act. It's an important bill because it will allow us to streamline the permitting, which will allow us to go more quickly in building these manufacturing facilities in the United States. Of course, we care deeply about clean air, clean water, and the environment. That being said, this is a national security imperative. We have to act with urgency, go as fast as possible. And so this will allow us to go faster, to get these fabs up and running, put people to work, and produce chips on American soil.
And one of the companies that is working on some of these fabs is Intel. It's poised to receive nearly $12 billion in funding for its manufacturing facilities. Some of that's from the DoD, but a majority of it is tied to commerce, plus tax incentives, plus access to financing. With reports now that Qualcomm is interested in acquiring Intel and deal-making could be afoot, what does that now do to its relationship with the government and its access to that CHIPS Act funding?
It doesn't change anything. Obviously, I'm not going to comment on rumors. You can call the company about whatever deals may or may not be happening. From our perspective, it's still the same. Intel's an important American company. We need them to be successful, and we want to support them, and especially their foundry business, so that they can make chips on American soil. That's the whole point of this initiative, and we're committed to it.
Have you factored in the possibility of M&A or deal making among the industry as you have allocated funding to some of these different companies?
We do. We talk to these companies truly every single day. The team I've assembled here of more than 150 people are literally some of the best people in the industry, and so they certainly have their own analysis of if and how the industry might consolidate. But again, our mission is crystal clear, and we're not wavering from it. By the end of this, we will be producing 20% of the world's leading-edge chips in the United States of America on our soil. We're not backing away from that. It's a cyclical industry. It's an industry that has always had M&A. We're supporting Intel. We're supporting other companies. We're going to get the job done.
And finally, I just have to get your thoughts on where we are in this AI cycle as it evolves here. Next week, CNBC has its AI Opportunity Summit in New York. And one of the key things that's in focus and questions being asked is there a threat that the U.S. doesn't lead in this new era? How does the U.S. maintain its edge over China and the rest of the world?
Great question, and something I think a lot about it. It is absolutely vital that the United States of America maintain its lead. AI is the most consequential technology, certainly in my lifetime. And right now, the U.S. does lead, and we have to continue to lead. So that means we need to continue to lead in the infrastructure, which is chips and data centers. We need to lead in the way it's applied to industry. And that means we need to run as fast as we can, right? Working in partnership with industry. It means we need to invest in research and development and talent. Today, I've made an announcement about more investments in chip workforce. We have to think about it holistically, and very importantly, it means we have to protect our most sophisticated AI models and chips so that they don't get in the hands of China. We lead China now, and we need to stay there.
And you're standing up this AI Safety Summit that's going to convene starting in November. I would assume that goes towards that process.
Exactly. So in November will be, the Commerce Department's the lead agency in the federal government as it relates to AI and AI strategy. We're standing up our U.S. AI Safety Institute here at Commerce. In November, I'll be convening a network of AI safety institutes in San Francisco from all over the world. And I'm super excited for that. We'll have countries come from all over the world to San Francisco so we can work with our allies to set the rules of the road and make sure that AI is safe. Because if it's safe, you'll have adoption. And that's, the most important thing that we can do to make sure we keep in the lead.
All right. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, always great to speak with you. Thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you.